What year is it? This is the news, so I bet you're the type of person that knows what year you're in. It's 2022. But on some issues, it really doesn't feel like people realize that. Indeed, there are so many parts of our life in media, politics, culture, where things are so divided. And then you have some other things where there is actual genuine hope, especially when you talk to young people who've grown up in a different generation. If they grew up with the Obama presidency or they grew up with marriage equality, they don't even really see the issue in a good way because they're past it, because it's 2022. But not on some parts of Fox. Take hours after President Biden signed this landmark federal protection that really does something that's already the law of the land, which is marriage equality, but it locks it in with extra federal protections in case the Supreme Court does what some members, not the majority, have lately talked about, which is try to go and run that back. Now, if you're watching Fox, here's what you heard.
Joe Biden held kind of an over-the-top, celebration, this extravaganza that was named the Respect for Marriage Act, a bill that moves to restrict freedom of religion and freedom of speech even, meaning whether you're Catholic or evangelical or maybe Muslim, any serious person of faith, you will not necessarily have the rights tomorrow that you had yesterday. This push by the left, Biden included, is about destroying the primacy of the nuclear family.
Two things. There can be debates here, and there are people who have religious views, and some churches and other houses of worship don't always perform these kind of marriages. But you'll notice point number one. Having rights is still very popular even to the Fox audience, which is why that anchor there seems to need to lie about this and pretend there's some issue where that side would be on the side of rights. It's not. It's the opposite. Number two, this actual bill does not take anyone's rights away. Indeed, talk about freedom of speech and freedom of religion. You have every right to criticize marriage equality. You have every right not to practice it if you don't want to be married to someone of the same gender. And you have every right to go to a house of worship where you and those members decide they don't want to recognize that religiously. None of that is touched. And I'll tell you, by the way, as someone who used to practice First Amendment law, it really shouldn't be. That's your freedom. The freedom over here and equality under the law is equality for everyone as it pertains to the law and government. So you heard that on Fox Primetime. Their daytime shows, unlike other networks, also went out of their way to ignore what was just news. Again, when we cover big presidential stuff, it's not a pre-meeting about whether somebody agrees with it or not. It's a big deal when big bills are signed. But it was, of course, censored in a way. Speaking of cancel culture, the event itself was sort of canceled out of that news awareness of that audience. Here's some other Fox evening hosts on the attack.
It's an effort to degrade the country, but as a political matter, it's a distraction.
Now, of course, he did have time, though, today for a big celebration at the White House after signing the Respect for Marriage Act. Why did he choose that over visiting the southern border? Think about that.
This was supposed to be about gay marriage, but here you have Joe Biden, President of the United States, purportedly pushing child sexual mutilation.
This is a tough call. Do you fact check the last words you just heard, or do you point out that the graphic on a show that is called a news show of Joe Biden eating ice cream in front of a blazing fire is just not real? I mean, if you're watching something and they start photoshopping stuff without it telling you why or what it is, you might not be watching the news. Fact check, Joe Biden has never been caught on camera eating ice cream in front of a blazing fire. So that's the light part. The serious part is that there's a context for all this. We are in a time of rising hate-related violence in America. There's a hearing on that just today. Hate crimes related to bias against sexual orientation and gender identity have actually surged over 40% in the last few years. And you've seen the examples. They correlate with other problems we have, like the general right-wing hate discourse in America and the accessibility to weapons, including sometimes people with mental health challenges, accessibility to weapons. But Orlando's Pulse nightclub, that was a massacre of 49 people related to this kind of hate. Or within the last month, a mass shooter that killed 5 and injured many more at Club Q in Colorado Springs. Today at this hearing, against the backdrop of that other stuff I showed you, the way it's being presented or misdirected to the public, well, at this important hearing, survivors from those attacks testified today.
Being LGBTQ in America in 2022 means looking over your shoulder before you hold hands with someone you love. It means wondering if today is the day that hate comes armed with a clenched fist or worse, an AR-15.
I saw my friend lying on the floor, bleeding out, knowing there was little to no chance of surviving that bullet wound. I had to tell him goodbye while I continued to fear for my life, not knowing if the attack was truly over.
It's not all the same, but a lot of it is related. And even if you start out from the position of not completely getting or understanding what's going on here, why this is in the news, why this is so important, how it relates to this discussion of rights and gender in America, well, that's okay, but then it's a time to listen. Can we still do that? Do we listen to each other and learn as we go? That's what that hearing was partially about, to bear witness to what those people endured here in our country. Hey, I'm Ari Melber. Thanks for watching The Beat. I wanted to let you know I'm writing a foreword to the January 6th committee's full report, which is coming out soon from HarperCollins. You can go pre-order the book right now, and it'll come to you first when the report comes out in the fall or whenever the government releases it. Just search Melber Jan 6th on Amazon or your favorite independent book site and click pre-order. You'll be the first to get both the report and my new piece on the coup conspiracy. You can also go to melberbook.com and order it there.